Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Imagine holding a piece of iron in your hand. It's about the size of a pen, with a sharp blade that tapers into a spike. It looks ancient, and it is. Now imagine being told this tool, forged 200-300 years ago, was used for skull surgery. That's exactly what archaeologists in Poland have just unearthed, and it's completely rewriting what we thought we knew about ancient medicine. In a fortified Celtic settlement known as Lysagora, a team of archaeologists made the stunning discovery. Buried for over 2 millennia, this iron implement dates back to the 4th or 3rd century BC. According to the archaeological team, finds like this are exceptionally rare. Only a handful of similar instruments have ever been discovered across all of Europe from this period. The tool itself is a testament to the advanced skill of Celtic blacksmiths. The iron blade seamlessly transitions into a spike, and it was likely fitted into a wooden handle for a firm grip. This wasn't some crude piece of metal, it was a precision instrument. The discovery is even more significant than a Celtic helmet made of thin bronze that was previously found at the same site. Why? Because a helmet is for defense. But a surgical tool implies a much deeper level of knowledge. It suggests that this community on a fortified hill in Poland had specialists, people with medical training, who worked alongside master craftsmen capable of creating the tools they needed for complex procedures. The site at Lysagora was clearly a bustling hub. Excavations have turned up all sorts of other artifacts: Celtic brooches, a spearhead, and numerous metal objects related to horseback riding. It was a center of trade and craftsmanship, but this surgical tool adds a whole new dimension. It tells us they weren't just warriors and traders, they were also healers, practicing one of the oldest and most daring surgical procedures in human history: trepanation. So what exactly is trepanation? The name comes from the Greek word trepanon, which means a borer or auger, and that's essentially what it is: the act of drilling, scraping, or cutting a hole into the human skull. If that sounds intense, it is. But what's truly mind-blowing is how ancient this practice is. Trepanation is arguably the oldest surgical procedure we have evidence for, dating back at least 7,000 years, with some estimates pushing it to 10,000 years ago. We've found trepan skulls from the Neolithic period, the New Stone Age, all over the world, from Europe and Siberia to China and the Americas. For thousands of years, cultures across the globe, with no contact with one another, independently developed this remarkable and risky procedure. This brings us to the big question: why on earth would they do it? The reasons appear to fall into two main categories: medical and magical. Let's start with the medical. In an age of frequent conflict and accidents, head injuries from weapons like clubs, slings, or spears would have been common. Trepanation could have been a form of primitive emergency surgery. If a person's skull was fractured, a surgeon could carefully cut away a section of bone to remove shattered fragments pressing on the brain. Or, if an injury caused bleeding under the skull, creating a hole could relieve the life-threatening pressure. But the reasons weren't always so practical. Trepanation was also deeply intertwined with ritual and spiritual beliefs. In many ancient societies, it was thought that conditions like seizures, severe migraines, or mental disorders were caused by evil spirits trapped inside the head. The logical, if terrifying, solution was to create an exit. By drilling a hole in the skull, the shaman or healer could release the malevolent entity and cure the patient. In some cases, the piece of bone that was removed, known as a rondelle, was kept and worn as an amulet or charm, believed to ward off future evil. The tools used for this delicate operation evolved over millennia. In the very beginning, surgeons used what they had. This meant tools crafted from sharpened flint, obsidian, or other hard stones. In the South Pacific, archaeologists have even found evidence that sharpened seashells were used. With the arrival of the Bronze and Iron Ages, metal tools, like the one found in Poland, became more common. The Greeks and Romans, famous for their engineering, were among the first to design more sophisticated medical kits specifically for penetrating the skull. The techniques varied as well. One of the most ancient methods involved slowly scraping away the bone with an abrasive instrument until a hole was formed. Another technique was to cut a circular groove, deepening it until the piece of bone could be lifted out. A third method involved drilling a series of small holes in a circle and then carefully breaking the bony bridges between them to remove the centerpiece. Based on skeletal evidence, it seems the Celts, like the creators of the Polish tool, primarily used the scraping technique. Now, listening to this, you're probably picturing a brutal, gruesome scene with a very low chance of success. And you're not wrong, it was incredibly dangerous. The risk of infection, brain damage, or fatal bleeding was immense. But here's the most astonishing part of the story. A surprising number of people survived. We know this because of bone. When a bone is broken or cut in a living person, it immediately begins to heal. Over weeks and months, the sharp edges of the cut will become rounded and smooth as new bone tissue grows. Skulls with these signs of healing are our proof that the patient lived on, sometimes for many years after the surgery. The survival rates are, frankly, unbelievable for the time. At a burial site in France dating to 6500 BCE, archaeologists studied 120 prehistoric skulls. 40 of them had trepanation holes. Of those 40, a significant number showed signs of healing, leading researchers to estimate a survival rate of around 40%. Think about that. In the Stone Age, you had a nearly 50-50 shot of surviving brain surgery. In another site in southwestern Germany from the 6th to 8th centuries, 7 out of 8 trepan skulls showed clear signs of healing. That points to an incredibly high survival rate and a low infection rate, suggesting these early surgeons had a good understanding of their craft. But if we want to find the true masters of ancient skull surgery, we have to travel from Europe to the mountains of Peru, to the Inca civilization. Research on over 800 trepan skulls from the region, dating from about 400 BCE all the way to the 1500 CE, reveals a story of breathtaking surgical skill. In the early periods, the survival rate was around 40%, similar to Stone Age France, but over the centuries, the Incas perfected their techniques. By the time of the Inca Empire, the survival rate for trepanation was somewhere between 83 and 91%. Let me repeat that, 91%. To put that in perspective, let's jump forward in time to the American Civil War in the 1860s. Surgeons performing skull operations to treat head wounds had access to metal tools, anesthesia, and a more modern understanding of medicine. Their survival rate was between 46 and 56%. You had a significantly better chance of surviving skull surgery in the ancient Incan Empire than you did on a battlefield in 19th century America. How was this possible? The Incas seemed to have a sophisticated, practical understanding of head anatomy. They consistently avoided operating in areas of the skull where major blood vessels were located, which would cause severe and uncontrollable bleeding. Their preferred technique was the slow, careful scraping method, which was less traumatic to the brain than drilling or cutting. They also likely had a powerful pharmacopoeia of medicinal plants. They could use coca leaves, the source of cocaine, as a local anesthetic to manage pain. They may have also used wild tobacco and other plants with antiseptic properties to prevent infection, which was the #1 killer in most surgeries until the 20th century. Some individuals even survived multiple procedures. One incredible skull shows evidence of 7 separate, successful trepanations. 7 times this person had a hole scraped into their skull, and 7 times they healed and lived to tell the tale. This brings us back to that 200-300-year-old Celtic tool unearthed in Poland. It's not just an isolated, curious artifact. It's a tangible link to this vast, global history of human ingenuity. It forces us to discard the cartoonish image of ancient medicine as all leeches and superstition. These were people who observed, who learned and who took incredible risks to save lives and ease suffering. The legacy of trepanation is still with us. This ancient art laid the essential groundwork for modern neurosurgery. Today's procedure, the craniotomy, where a section of the skull is temporarily removed to access the brain, is a direct descendant of the scraping, drilling, and cutting practiced by our ancestors thousands of years ago. The discovery at Lysagora is a powerful reminder that history is not a simple, linear progression from primitive to advanced. The past is filled with pockets of stunning sophistication and knowledge. And as archaeologists continue to dig, each new artifact they find, like this rare Celtic surgical tool, adds another fascinating chapter to the story of humanity.